you're getting on. You sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Well, that'll certainly get you in the mood for some Gulfstream Park thoroughbred racing on a beautiful Saturday here in Hallandale Beach. Gulfstream Park through the years. Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett alongside as we continue with all of you to write a new chapter. The newest championship meet ever. And Ronnie, we are, what, 11 days in? Day number 12 set with 11 races today.
11 races today, 5 of those grade 3 stakes. So what a fantastic Saturday it's going to be. And this is going to sound like we're crazy, but the weather is once again perfect.
Yeah, Groundhog's Day all over again. Fast and firm, sun is out, maxing out at around 80 degrees today for the high. It just doesn't get any better than South Florida weather at this time of the year. And the track's been alive and rocking over the last few days. In fact, this championship meet turns 2 weeks old today. Hard to believe the claiming crown already 2 weeks ago. And we've got a lot of ground to cover on the show, so we won't waste a lot of time at the top. But we do need to take a step back. And aside from Todd Pletcher winning another 2 races yesterday, I'm going to say Mr. Blewett was the star of the Friday card. No winners in the Beat the Expert.
5 winners, I believe you had yesterday.
Yeah.
Was enough to win it. But have no fear, you can get one of those T-shirts because I'm the expert next week, and you got a good chance to beat me. So we'll see how that works out. Congratulations to Jason, and don't forget, play along. Let us know what's happening during the week. You know, don't forget this Friday, every Friday during the championship meet, and I'm up next week, and then after me, our buddy Acacia will be back, and she'll be up. So the pressing, it just keeps rolling along.
And best of luck to Acacia. I believe the Miss Florida contest may start today, and certainly the finals are tomorrow over in Tampa. So best of luck. We're thinking of Acacia. It'll be good to have her back in the mix this coming Wednesday afternoon at Gulfstream Park. But let's not rush the weekend. I mean, as Ronnie said, it's a big Saturday. 5 graded stakes and key preps moving ahead to 2018 locally in South Florida. And a quick little rundown and some housekeeping as to what's on tap. We begin with the high 5 in race number 1. In fact, a big field. You've got a dozen turf runners in that opening $16,000 claiming race. No carryover to report. No carryover. There can't be a carryover in the early pick 5. However, a much different story, Ronnie, looking ahead to race number 6 with the Rainbow.
Rainbow 6 getting to that $100,000 mark. Be way over that this afternoon. You got all those parts of those graded stakes involved in the Rainbow 6, so should be a lot of fun. And as we always mention, and you can see it on the screen, only a 20-cent wager.
I love the Rainbow 6 today because it's 4 graded stakes and a pair, in fact, bookending 2-year-old maiden races, one on the dirt, one on the turf, and they look like those traditional wintertime Gulfstream Park maiden races, chock full of big pedigrees, top connections, and perhaps quite a bit of promise. Now, moving ahead, and speaking of the Rainbow 6 and late pick 5, why don't we take a look at what's doing with my early pick 5. And much like yesterday, not a very pricey ticket, standing alone with the second race, my single. Yeah, about that name, that's Optimistic Shot. Aptly named, I'm thinking, as the anchor to an $18 play that sees me use 3 horses in race number 1, and one of your old friends, Ronnie, in race number 3.
Race number 3. Weezer, you got to mean Weezer Gone Gray, one of my buddies in there. And the first race today in this pick 5 situation was really a head scratch. I know we both had like the horse in here that was scratched out, so a sort of work in progress. And looks like you got a pretty good ticket there.
I'm hoping that's the case, and we end things. You talk about ending things with a big exclamation point with a bang. That'll be our first graded stake on the afternoon. The Rampart in race number 5. It is Curlin's Approval, who really, for a Kentucky-bred filly, she is very much a South Florida gal. She is home today, but she faces a very stiff test in that race with Lewis Bay, who's been off for a little over a year for Chad Brown, and then the white-hot Todd Pletcher has Nona Mella.
Nona Mella in that race, and Curlin's approval just loves this track. I believe 7 victories over this surface, so we'll see how it works out this afternoon.
Now let's begin with the first in a real tricky race. And Ronnie and I, again, both got some bad news at around 10 a.m. this morning, a little less than an hour ago, when we found out our co-top choice in this race, the number 9 Dream Shot, was taken out. With his absence, you can draw in the number 13 Island Therapy. And I think the difference of opinion does this race justice. I think the betting opinions will be all over the board here. I'm going to go to Majev on the rail, just with the good post and a needed drop in class today for Michelle Nihay.
Yeah, needed drop in class, and I moved up. I had the 9, as we mentioned, on top, and I scratched into the 7 Imperial Warriors, dropping to this 16 level after returning from about a 6-month layoff to duel for the lead and weekend, what should prove to be, I believe, a screw-tightening performance at the $25,000 level. You get Antonio Sano, so you got to like that. Gilbert Tremafi will be in the saddle, but got to go back and look at Majev, because I didn't have, after the 9, I had to just scramble around, and I come up with the 7. And I'm glad you have the 12 on there. I didn't know if you thought this horse was a little cheap for this spot, and I'm talking about Summer Scamp.
Summer Scamp, who might, I mean, that was my knee-jerk reaction looking at him, but I do think, and obviously you've got to break cleanly, and he's got to be hustled along to get some respectable position before the first turn. I thought he might ultimately, with that outside post, maybe in some goofy way, it would kind of be a blessing in disguise, where he might just be tracking the pace and sitting third, ready to roll off the number 2 for all the marbles, and you know you're getting some speed, I would think, from the stretch out, the 5, the Sun Wind. Before we go any further, we got to give a pop to your 4th horse, who I left out, but certainly respect and do like him as a racehorse, the old 10-year-old, the number 3, Lighthouse Sound.
Yeah, Lighthouse Sound, just threw him on a ticket. You know, he can jump up and beat these on his best days. He's currently 6-1 on the board, very, very early in the wagering. You're absolutely right. This board is going to change numerous times, probably by the time before we get off this show.
You might even have a 3-1, 7-2 favorite in the first. It is that hard a race. And just to tie a ribbon around Lighthouse Sound, he made his Gulfstream Park debut in December of 2011, so a little over 6 years ago, and won his first ever race here in March of 2011 as well. So good stuff there with Lighthouse Sound.
Lighthouse Sound?
Yeah, absolutely, man. As we move on to race number 2, we'll hit the main track. We're at 5.5 furlongs as we finish off the early double with these 2-year-old filly 12-5 maiden claimers. I've got a Trap Shot double on top. He's the sire of Majev in the first. He was also the sire of Dream Shot. I had a Trap Shot exact in the first, and Trap Shot double here with the firster for Victor Barboza Jr., who I have no idea what the story is. I didn't get a tip or anything, but the fact that Edgar Zayas winds up here for Victor Barboza on this filly, for a barn that just does good work with all of their horses, no matter the age, no matter the situation, no matter the class level, that was good enough for me to see him jump off the 9, Prospective Moment, who's been 3-1 or less in her last few starts with Edgar for his main rider or main trainer, one of them in Jose Pinchin.
Yeah, I mean, I got that. I think that's the logical choice when the smoke clears in here. Optimistic shot, but I didn't know what to do with the 4, and I see you didn't use this horse at all. And this one is a daughter of Old Fashioned who's making her local debut. After showing promise, it was her 6th furlong debut, but it was in Puerto Rico. I didn't know what to make of it. She recovered from a squeeze play at the start to come within the neck of exiting the maiden ranks. This is total guess on my part. I'm trying to translate what happened in Puerto Rico to here to South Florida. But what I liked about this freshman, working consistently over the track.
She missed the plane, I guess, back to Puerto Rico. I was gonna say in the walking ring here, hey Golda, you're a week late. The Classico was 7 days ago, but she adds a layer to a very tricky race. This is a very tough early double to start things out, and I just highly doubt we're looking at an early double when it's all said and done, and we're turning the page to Saturday's 3rd. That's gonna chalk out and give you a $15 early double. I just don't see that happening. These races are just too tough and too wide open. And it really doesn't get any easier. Maybe you have a little more form to go on, and recent form at that, in race number 3, a $16,000 claimer on the Gulfstream Park turf at 7.5 furlongs. And Ronnie and I are at least in the same zip code and ballpark here, boxing the every bit of the 1, 4, and 7. For me on top, I prefer the drop down, and I just think getting back to basics and being realistic at this time of the year with the 7 Little Baltar, who in his first 2 races off the claim for Saffie Joseph Jr., he's just been out of his element against better horses. I like him today dropping in for 16.
Yeah, and he had a little bit of trouble across town, and that was against 25 optional claimers. I did go with Modern Taylor, reclaimed by Imaginary Stables and trainer Elizabeth Dobles, stepping up the competition, tracked the pace. I like the fact that they jumped back in and took this horse. Weezer Gone Gray, I cannot turn the page without mentioning my buddy, this horse going to the lead. And one thing about this horse, Edgar Zayas handles this horse perfectly.
Well, you got a sense of the athletic prowess and the overall fitness from Edgar Zayas yesterday. Shorter race than this 7.5 furlong turf race, around 2 turns in race 3. But, I mean, he really had to earn his money, in fact, in both wins in back-to-back fashion in races 4 and 5. But he had to ride the hare basically from the bell on the big favorite in race number 4, horse by the name of Player's Luck. And I don't know. If Edgar's not on that horse and not as aggressive and not just scrubbing on him throughout, maybe he doesn't win that race.
He maybe doesn't win that race. It was, you know, he was ding-donging it all the way to the wire. And Weezer Gone Gray, that's what made me never leave this horse off the ticket once Edgar got aboard, because he just keeps that horse moving and moving along.
And he's a fighter too, Weezer Gone Gray.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to run by him, you better do it out in the middle of the turf course,
Right.
because if you pull up alongside and get eye to eye with him, you will get in a battle, a real street tough battle with Weezer Gone Gray. Back to race number 4, or we turn the page to race 4, and we stay on the turf on this gorgeous Saturday here. Picture perfect day in Hallandale Beach for racing. These are 2-year-old filly, $25,000 maiden claimers. You could take out the 3 who had a big chance. In fact, on paper, the number 3 slightly tipsy, and one of the AEs drinks on Maggie. He might be sleeping it off somewhere here after a Friday night in South Beach. But what are you doing here, Ronnie, in race number 4? I see you've got good old Honey Hearts on top for Luca Panici.
Honey Hearts making a local return after shipping across town and finishing a well-meant second against similar quality. That was going 5 furlongs on that Gulfstream West turf course. And I just thought after that, I would put this horse on the ticket. Actually snuck my glasses on. I had the 10 on my ticket, the horse that you had on top, but I just couldn't make that horse because of that post outside.
Well, that's one of the hang-ups, I think. 2 horses who were fairly short in this race on Jay Stone's Gulfstream morning line. The 10 Nothing's Free, who I think is 4-1, and the 12 Catharsis, who's in for the 25, is 4.5-1. They are both saddled with very tough and tricky outside posts. The good news here with the 10 Nothing's Free, this was, the more I looked around, I think a race going in that is crying out for a new face. And you do have many turf unknowns in here, but the drop-in class certainly really jumped off the page at me. And I love the fact that he's got some forestry, or she's got some forestry, Stormcat blood on the dam side of her pedigree. I love forestries and Stormcats on the turf. You get that with the 10 Nothing's Free. I would use every bit of a couple of the outside runners in Nothing's Free and Catharsis, who's also making her turf debut.
Yeah, and maybe that's the way to go with a new face on the scene. I went with Honey Hearts, and we both had some interest in the 6 Tequila and Tacos. And I had some interest in the 6 Tequila and Tacos. So let's see that race. You made a great point here. The first 4 races on this card, very, very tough, and you can go numerous different ways, and that's the beauty of the racing at Gulfstream Park.
I just have a hard time seeing an endless procession of chalk. I mean, I know the first half of yesterday's card was very logical and very formful, and maybe the biggest winner in the first 5 races paid about $7 or so. I don't think that's going to happen today. And of course, we really step up as far as the deep water is concerned in Saturday's 5th, the opening of 5 graded stakes on the card, Ronnie. The Grade 3 Rampart. These are 3 and up fillies and mares as we go with a field of 7. 8-5 on the morning line is the inside horse, the 1 Curlin's Approval. But as we mentioned at the top, when going over the early pick 5, she's got to deal with the rail, and she's got potentially 2 or 3 legitimate foes in this race, in the likes of Lewis Bay for Chad Brown, and then the Pletcher Army with the 6, Nona Mella.
Nona Mella and Curlin's Approval, look back, has not really won yet at a mile. I think that, I don't know if that's going to be Canterell problems in here, but I just think that Curlin's Approval can run well in this spot. Tried to beat it with Lewis Bay, but Curlin's Approval on paper certainly the one to beat.
And she is, I mean, as far as her races go at Gulfstream Park, she is, as I mentioned, a Kentucky-bred but a real South Florida gal who's put up some incredible numbers. And I think if you were to look at the trophies, the graded stakes trophies she's racked up in 2017, the one that really would jump out and stick out on the shelf would be the Grade 2 Princess Rooney. I do believe going 7/8 back on July 1st, so long ago, Summer to Speed Day, smack dab in the middle of the summer, a hot day and a blazing hot performance out of Curlin's Approval, who did everything right in this race on July 1st. Since then, though, she's gone to Saratoga, didn't work out in the Ballerina. She prepped for the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint here in early October with an easy lopsided win, and she was squeezed back and stumbled a bit in the Filly Mare Sprint out at Del Mar at a very big price. Back in her element today, but the question becomes the one-turn mile. She's won going 2 turns, though, in a mile and a 16th in the Royal Delta, so I'm hoping the fact that she's won beyond the mile won't be an issue. But if she runs back to this race, albeit at a mile today, Ronnie, they will all be, I can almost guarantee they'll be running for second money.
I mean, that's sort of what I was trying to get at. I don't know if that's going to affect the one-turn mile this afternoon. Of course, I went a little different way, but Curlin's Approval is certainly the one to beat. I did go with Lewis Bay on top of my ticket. And Lewis Bay, a multiple Grade 1 stakes place daughter of Bernardini, making her first start since coming within the neck of winning the Grade 3 calmly at Aqueduct. But as you mentioned, that was last November. So I looked up a stat, and I pinpointed it to Gulfstream Park with Chad Brown, who has excellent stats, but 180-day plus layoff on the dirt right here at Gulfstream Park. Limited sampling, boy, is it good. 3 for 6, 50%, 67% in the money with a positive return of investment of over $3. So Lewis Bay coming off a long layoff, but working very well. Is she good enough to turn the tables on Curlin's Approval?
She is a very consistent, classy filly, and she's going to make a race of it with Curlin's Approval. I just don't see Chad bringing her back in a spot like this at a pretty demanding one-turn mile if he didn't feel he had Lewis Bay as good as human hands could make a horse. And you think about the apple never falls far from the tree. It really doesn't. And the overall Bobby Frankel school, university that Chad came out of, I don't know in this modern era of racing, bold statement perhaps, but as far as having a long-range goal and getting a horse ready for a big, all-out peak effort off a lengthy layoff and workouts alone, Bobby Frankel was the best at that, and obviously Chad has done quite well for himself with those moves. Let's give a pop to the 6, Nona Mella, who is a youngster. She's only got that one race against older horses. She drilled an easier field than this up at Saratoga in early August. I think, though, on a horse-for-horse basis, even with the layoff of Lewis Bay and the rail with Curlin's Approval, she's biting off quite a bit going in. I don't think she has successfully defeated this kind of firepower before.
Maybe not, but how good has Todd Pletcher been going? So you got to never lead this guy off the ticket, which I've tried a few days this week, and it just so happened. So with that said, I think Nona Mella is a horse that you have to take a second look at. Of course, the race goes through Curlin's Approval. Maybe Lewis Bay comes back and win, but Nona Mella, with Javier Castellano in the saddle, I think you got to give a strong second look at.
The Rampart, a standalone event, but it's not today. We are just getting warmed up. 4 graded stakes, a rainbow to catch, and a lot more coming your way on Gulfstream today.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact, leading the way in testing and aftercare. Only 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup champions. Plus, we have North America's most lucrative awards program, up to 40% in breeder awards and owner bonuses, 400+ restricted races annually, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 5th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania, it's a winner.
5 down, 6 to go, and a hearty live Saturday welcome back to this edition of Gulfstream Today. It's Ronnie and Jason right outside the walking ring. Delighted to have you with us as we get tied on for another gigantic, super Saturday-like afternoon of racing at Gulfstream Park. Covered a lot of ground, Ronnie, in those first 5 races, including the Rampart, but it gets even better now as we start the Rainbow Six.
Yeah, let's quickly go to my ticket. You'll see it is $38.40 today. And you'll see in race number 8, I wanted to find a single, and I went with On Leave from the Shug McGay barn. This is a grade 2 winner, Irod Ortiz Jr. That's the one I like today. I think that's a good spot for that horse. $38.40, 9th and 11th. Had some trouble with those races, so I stretched them out and went 4 deep in each one of those.
On Leave, a very logical single in the My Charmer. She is one classy filly, and all things being true, if she gets a good trip and runs a race, she's supposed to win. I just think she holds a talent edge and a class edge in that My Charmer. As Shug gets his day started, in fact, here at Gulfstream Park in race number 6, the West Point Thoroughbreds race of the day, and this is your first typical looking, classic looking Saturday 2-year-old maiden special weight at this time of the year at Gulfstream Park. Little bummed about the scratch of the 7 Apostle. We had heard some stories. I know Eddie Plesa Jr., the trainer of Apostle, very high on that $900,000 2-year-old purchase by Medaglia d'Oro. But with him out, you're looking at probably an overwhelming favorite in Todd Pletcher's $900,000 purchase, Navistar.
Yeah, Navistar is stretching out to a mile after his promising 6.5 furlong debut at Belmont. He rallied 4 wide to finish second. We've been mentioning what Todd Pletcher and jockey John Velasquez have been doing together. I want to show you quickly a stat on Todd Pletcher. Sprint to Route 2-year-olds maiden special weight, once again pinpointed at Gulfstream Park. 3 for 13, 23%, 38% in the money, $32 ROI, and just something I wanted to throw out there. Still think this horse has a huge shot with the scratch of the horse that we both thought was going to run exceptionally well in there, and that was Apostle.
And the horse that beat Navistar last time, and not to belabor the point on a horse who might just be a huge, huge underlay and monstrous favorite in today's 6th race, but that Mask, a horse who really looked good first time out at 2-1 for Chad Brown, could be a serious 3-year-old in the making. Chad and Todd obviously with deep, deep benches when it comes to talented and well-bred 2-year-olds. So Navistar for you and I, and we kind of see the race, Ronnie, in the same light for 2nd and 3rd potentially. Shug, you would think some improvements coming with Personal Time, who, speaking of Todd, was beaten by the highly regarded Montauk first out, and Bill Mott's got one coming in from Churchill Downs in the 10, Locomotion.
Yeah, Locomotion breaking from the outside this afternoon. But I quickly want to touch on one horse in here, and that's Master Manipulator, who ran a solid second here in the mile in September. Back with maidens after going up there, tilting windmills in the Champagne. I think this horse, the half to $1.5 million earner, Coralina, might be the sneaky in the race. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Caught some good fields over the summertime, running twice in special weight company down here. Not the kind of talent he'll line up in the gate with today, but as Roddy said, he'll be a very big price for Mr. Guillaume. All right, on to race number 7, back into Graded Stakes Company as we jumpstart Saturday's late pick 5. Really like the Rainbow Six and the late pick 5 today. If you're a fan, and most of us are, of the best against the best in quality racing, I mean, this is the kind of day you live for as far as going over the races and analyzing and putting tickets together. And this opening leg really hinges upon the Sugar Swirl on Dearest.
Boom.
Who's got that?
Single.
Oh, I'm singling her. And you know what? It's almost obvious that inside post is a real issue going in, and it has to be mentioned. And it's an obvious potential negative, and she'll have the big bullseye on her back. She's been in some spots in the past where she's been kind of a middle-of-the-road contender. Won't be the case in today's 7th race, the Sugar Swirl. And moving on to On Leave, again, Stuart Janney, this is my being a New York guy at heart. This is my kind of horse for Shug, who's just, she's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thought process when I singled the horse. She's well-traveled daughter of Warfront, and all the reasons we mentioned. We'll talk about it when we get to that 8th race. And then in the 9th race, she went with the 2, Mr. Jordan, and the 3, Destin. We're in agreement. Mr. Jordan runs his race. It is over.
It is. What makes it interesting, though, is the fact that he's never run, or at least won, he's never run quite as well, and he's never won over the main track at Gulfstream Park, which is pretty incredible considering all the dances he has danced. The 10th race, that is the Tropical Turf. That is a very tricky race. I went 3 deep. I used Chad's Camelot Kitten. Todd's all included, and Christophe Clement's black type. I feel pretty comfortable with those three, and I want coverage to cash. Another key scratch on the program of the number 5 Baru in race number 11, so that leaves me with a 4-bagger. And with the 2 singles, you can get a little bang for your buck for not much money with the 50-cent minimum, just a $12 play. But so, Ronnie, this is likely, from what I've been told, the swan song of the number 1 Dearest. This is going to be her final career start, most likely, and they'll send her to Kentucky to be a mom and a broodmare going forward. So the tank will be empty today. Yeah. And you would imagine Gilberto Zerpa has got her just, I mean, as tight as a rubber band. She's going to need to be pretty good. She is the class of the field, as they say, in the Sugar Swirl going in, and she's done some really good things. In fact, let's relive her win in the Sugar Swirl a year ago. I was really impressed with this effort back on December 17th of 2016 beneath Edgar Zayas, who again, they've got her to beat from that inside post.
Yeah, I mean, she's the defending champ, as you can see right there. She's turning back to 3/4 of a mile. First starts and chasing that pace, settling for 4th behind who? Curlin's Approval. That was in the 7-furlong grade 2 Princess Fruity, which we also showed you. And as you see, a very nice performance. I want to show you stat with Dearest, with trainer Gilberto Zerpa over the last 5 years. Layoff 61 to 180 days on the dirt. Sprints once again at Gulfstream Park. He's 5 for 20, 25%, 60% in the money, and $1.63 return of investment. And you're right, Dearest is certainly the one to beat in that race.
5.5-month layoff coming out of that grade 2 Princess Rooney on that Summit of Speed card. We actually had walked by, and you tweeted out a picture of the number 2 Miss Hollywood, a former facing Tipton auction purchase, and a 5-year-old mare by Malibu Moon. She looked terrific. She might be able to take advantage of a hot pace if Dearest really has her hands full early from that rail with the 6 Girl Knows Best and the number 5 True Romance. 1-2 for me, 1-7 for Ronnie in the Sugar Swirl. We stay with the graded stakes competition. We stay with the gals, but we move on to the turf with race number 8, the grade 3 My Charmer at a mile on the turf. And there's just a really nice resume from day one with the number 5 On Leave, who's a soon-to-be 5-year-old gray filly by Warfront for Stuart S. Janney III. Erod Ortiz in town off a 3-win Saturday a week ago on Classico Day, including the Caribbean Derby. And Jose's, it's funny, Jose, who's sitting on the sidelines and had knee surgery and is looking for a December 30th return, I last read, here at Gulfstream Park. He's been the regular rider of this filly who, let's backtrack to her win in the All Along up at Laurel in the middle of September. And the neat thing about her is she has not had to bring her racetrack with her, Ronnie. She runs everywhere she steps off the van.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that in my analysis. Well-traveled, daughter of Warfront, debuts locally for Shug, as we've been mentioned, following a victory that you see right here in the All Along with a late-running 3rd-place finish. That was in the grade 2 Gold Cover at Del Mar in her last race. She has Erod Ortiz Jr., and I just think, as you said, off that resume, she's the one to beat, and you saw that we both single her. But this is a good race. If she doesn't come with her A game, she could be in trouble.
Yeah, at times, this tightly configured Gulfstream turf course, fields do get bunched up. Erod, a guy that rides the turf as well as any other jockey in the country, but he likes to save ground. So you never know. She's got to go out there and do it. A 5.87 for me, 5.78 for Ronnie in the My Charmer. Let's move on to the centerpiece. At least that's my feeling, given the namesake of today's co-featured 9th race, the 3-and-up grade 3 Harlan's Holiday, named for a former multiple stakes winner, graded stakes winner, who's become a top sire and a sire of sires as well when you think of horses like Into Mischief. You've got 9 set to go, and the betting for the most part I think will zero in on the 2 of the 3 inside runners between Mr. Jordan and the Todd Pletcher trained Destin. But certainly a nice race today. No Gunnevera. The original plans called for him prepping in the Harlan's Holiday for that $16 million Pegasus on January 27th, but we still have a very good field. And to me the question becomes, Ronnie, well, which Mr. Jordan do we get? It's incredible, and he has run well at Gulfstream on the dirt in the past, but he's never won. And I talked with his trainer, Eddie Plesa Jr., the other day about that, and he was a little concerned. Not wholly. He said the horse has been training fantastic, and as far as getting a quote-unquote nice prep, the right kind of prep under a horse's belt. As we go to the Millions Classic preview at GPW a little over a month ago, I mean, this was basically a paid public workout for Mr. Jordan.
I mean, Mr. Jordan, throughout its career, absolutely loves Gulfstream Park West, and that surface runs well. And you're right about Gulfstream Park right here. 8 starts over this track, no wins, 3 seconds and a third. Totally dominated that competition in the Classic. Eddie Plisa Jr., Edgar Zayas. It's a speedy son of Cantharos, and I think he just fits the race shape perfectly near. Both of us have it on top of the ticket. Boy, Destin, it can give this horse all he can handle.
Now, Destin's claim to fame for the Pletcher Bard and Johnny V, I feel, is that still stinging, if you like them that day, tough-nosed loss to Creator in the 2016 Belmont Stakes. Since then, he's picked up a couple of wins, one at Saratoga, and then he upset the field. Actually, it was a fairly short price. He was 2-1 in the Grade 2 Marathon out there on Breeders' Cup Friday, November 3rd at Del Mar. To me, the question with Destin is not his overall ability, because I would argue he might just be, here, a little more talented than anybody else. It's not by a lot, it's by a little. To me, though, the main question is he might be a little better. In fact, I definitely think he's better beyond the mile and a 16th. And the track configuration, I think, for these 8.5 furlong races may come into play a little bit because you have a very short stretch with that first finish line.
Well, I thought that too, and I was feeling the same way. And then I went to look back, and somewhere along the line, this horse has made 4 starts at a mile and a 16th with 2 wins and a second. So on the ticket, and that was my thought process of not putting this horse on top of the ticket and going with Mr. Jordan. Otherwise, I think I might have flip-flopped him, but I like the fact that this horse has won at a mile and a 16.
It was a long time ago, and those were theoretical Triple Crown prep races at the time, but your point is well taken. Got to give a little respect and some time and love to the Pennsylvania-bred Paige McKenney, who I'm sure he's happy to be out of chilly Laurel. The snow was coming down. We watched a couple of races in the office yesterday. I mean, it was snowing pretty hard up at our sister track at Laurel Racecourse in Maryland. He has danced just about every dance. If you're a fan of the game, you have to have just a soft spot for any horse who's got the type of lifetime resume and has banked almost $1.8 million the hard way. This will be career start number 53.
Yeah, he's a 20-time winner. How about this? 10-time winner at the distance, 13 races, 10 wins in 2 seconds, and you just love horses like that. Trained by Mary Epler, regular rider Horacio Caramanos down here, the rider. I used to ride here in South Florida, know him very well. So I just think Paige McKenney, boy, off that resume, certainly have to have this one on my try and super ticket.
All right, let's see. An excellent field in our co-featured ninth, the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday. And if you sit tight, a little teaser later on. We'll have a little stretch run with the call of Harlan's Holiday winning the 2003 Don Handicap so long ago for trader Todd Pletcher. All right, on to race number 10. This will wrap up the graded stakes competition on the day, and maybe the toughest, most wide open. The Harlan's Holiday is very deep from a talent standpoint, but I don't think anybody will be surprised if it's Mr. Jordan, Destin, and Paige McKenney battling down to the finish line. This 10th race, the Grade 3 Tropical Turf, might not be as cut and dried as that. You do have some serious snowbird talent, though, shipping in Camelot Kitten, All Included, and Black Type. And in the case of All Included, you've got a horse who really likes it here at Gulfstream Park. In fact, I would argue he's better here in South Florida than he's been anywhere else, and he's a graded stakes winner, having won the Appleton back on that Florida Derby undercard on April 1st. This horse is not flashy by any means, as he's in the white cap and the Wertheimer and Frere silks, the blue and white, but he can just grind and have that no-quit, relentless gallop for days. I am a fan of All Included, and what won me over, Ronnie, just the hot streak that Pletcher's been on.
I mean, they've just been on a hot streak. He had a little bit of got beat double-digit lengths in the Grade 3 Red Bank during May, but Pletcher just been on fire with everything he's done over the last couple of weeks here, and that's just normal for him at Gulfstream Park. So All Included on my ticket there, but I did go with Black Type on top, debuting locally after its 2-race win streak, which included a victory in the Grade 2 Knickerbocker, ended when he finished 4th in the Artie Schiller up at Aqueduct. It's Christophe Clement. He does Excellent work, trainer Christoph. Come on these type of days. Joel Rosario in the saddle. So black top on top of me, all included on the ticket. Quickly want to mention Tower of Texas, 1 of 2 in the field for Roger Atfield, a grade 1 stakes place performer at the distance. His debuting locally fresh off that rallying victory over 3 rivals only, going a mile. That was on a yielding course of Woodbine. But I wanted to show you that just you could add this for your handicapping. Now Roger Appleton, Mr. Atfield has 2 in this race. He's got Tower of Texas, and he's got the 9 horse in here. Layoff 31 to 60 days in graded stakes on the turf. He's 3 for 42, 12%, with only 14% in the money. Just wanted to point that out if you're thinking using one of these 2 horses in it. It's a little bit of a stat I wanted to show you on Roger Atfield in the 10th race this afternoon.
Well, he is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it is Roger Atfield we're talking about after all.
I really like the 1 in that race. That's why I was bringing that up. I went and looked at the stat, but I think the 1's got a shot. Maybe not to win it, but certainly be on the ticket.
He's got a chance, as does the other Atfield horse on the outside, the number 9 Shakamat, as Luis Saez has picked up the mount on your Tower of Texas, and you might get an okay price, certainly middle of the pack kind of price on this 6-year-old gelding by Street Sense at a former facing Tipton auction buy, and Luis Saez at the top of his game, and he is a young rider still, only in his mid-20s, and you can almost literally see the improvement from 1 year, 1 meet at Gulfstream to the next.
Yeah, he just seems to be zeroing in on how to run, exactly run on the turf or on the main track. If it calls for a horse to be on the lead, on the turf, that's where you'll find him. He knows how to handle both surfaces here, and you got to keep him in mind whenever you're handicapping at Gulfstream Park. He's leading rider once again.
Yeah, he's leading rider, looking to build upon, and first of all, defend 102 wins last year during the championship meet, and he'll look to eclipse it. And he doesn't really ride first call or first drink for any mega barn, which I think is just incredible when you look at the amount of races that he's won on the year. I think he's got 215 and counting for 2017. We'll see what Camelot Kitten, a quick pop to him. This kind of, and he clearly has the prerequisite talent to win a race like this and to run with these horses. Mayo might be just a hair too short for him. Not going to second guess Chad. Maybe this is just a little bit of a prep in a race he can certainly win to get him going, but I do think he's a little better beyond a mile. As we wrap it up with race number 11, these are 2-year-old, near $50,000 maiden special weight runners. 10 ready to rumble in this one. You could take out the 5, Baru, who was probably going to go favored for the Tap Army. And that leaves me with the number 6, Armchair Jockey, who's bred. This horse might be a pretty good price. Speaking of Luis Saez, I cannot pass up a horse who is bred top and bottom for turf. Second time out for Mike Maker, getting Saez for the Ramses and getting on the turf for the first time. I am in with the number 6, and I love the name Armchair Jockey.
Armchair Jockey, and I put that on my ticket for all the reasons you mentioned, but on the bottom part. But I tell you why I like the 2 in here, Forgotten Coast. This one beating the nose on the Churchill turf. That was 3 starts back. Then gets eased in the next race, but was carried out. There was trouble in that race. That was on Keelan. Now comes back to the grass today after running a second in a race that was moved from the turf to a mile in the 16th on the Churchill main track. Lots of questions to be answered here. I think this horse, off that performance, 3 back, might be the sneaky in the nightcap.
Yeah, might 2 sneaky, or at least 1 sneaky. He's part of a 2-horse deal dropping out of the same race here just 2 weeks ago on Claiming Crown Day, December 2nd. That is Rocky Strange. I'm going to give him another look today. Love the pedigree on him. I know he's already run a few times, but he's got a good post. He's got Edgar Zayas, and he's first-time Lasix today. We had a winner by Lonhro in yesterday's nightcap and Coolin' Rock for trainer Barkley Tag, and we'll see if we get another in today's nightcap. But that's a long way off. This is a classic Saturday during the championship meet at Gulfstream. We hope you're tied on. Ronnie and I all day with you from the walking ring, and our man upstairs, who's actually downstairs right now, Pete Aiello, is coming your way with Scratches and Changes.